3 years of devotion. That is what Marcus Sterling thought he was deleting with a single tap of his finger. He looked at his wife, Elena, a woman who had washed his shirts and soothed his headaches, and told her she wasn't brand appropriate for the night's gala. He erased her name from the guest list, convinced that his plain, quiet wife would only embarrass him among New York's elite. He thought he was untouchable. He was wrong. He didn't know that the woman he left crying in the penthouse wasn't just a housewife. She was the one holding the leash to his entire empire, and tonight she was coming to pull it tight. The morning sun sliced through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse atop the Steinway Tower, casting long, harsh shadows across the Italian marble floor. It was a cold Tuesday in November, the kind of New York morning that bit through coats and rattled windows, but inside the Sterling residence, the temperature was controlled to a perfect 72 degrees. Yet, for Elena Sterling, the room felt freezing. She stood by the kitchen island, her hands wrapped around a warm mug of cheap instant coffee, a habit she hadn't been able to shake from her childhood, despite the billions surrounding her now. She watched her husband, Marcus, adjust the cuffs of his bespoke Brioni suit. He was handsome, undeniably so, with the kind of sharp jawline and icy blue eyes that graced the covers of Forbes and GQ. But today, those eyes were avoiding hers. "Marcus," Elena said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "The car is scheduled for 6, right? For the Aurora Gala?" Marcus didn't look up. He was typing furiously on his iPad Pro, his brow furrowed. "Change of plans, Elena." Elena blinked. She set the mug down. "Change of plans? Did they reschedule? The Aurora Gala is the biggest event of the fiscal year. You're receiving the Tech Innovator of the Year award." Marcus finally looked up. His expression wasn't apologetic. It was annoyed. He looked at her the way one looks at a stain on a silk tie. He walked over to the counter, turned the iPad around, and slid it toward her. "I didn't say the plans changed," Marcus said, his voice smooth and lethally calm. "I said my plans changed." Elena looked down at the screen. It was the digital seating chart for the master table at the gala, hosted at the Plaza Hotel. There, in gold lettering, was Marcus's name. Next to it, where Mrs. Elena Sterling had been just last night, the slot was now blinking empty. Then, right before her eyes, Marcus tapped the screen. He typed in a new name, Chloe de Winter. The air left Elena's lungs. "Chloe, your publicist." "She's more than a publicist, Elena. She's a vital part of the brand," Marcus said, taking the iPad back and slipping it into his briefcase. He checked his reflection in the microwave door, fixing a stray hair. "Look, be realistic. Tonight is about image. It's about power. The investors from the Zenith Trust are going to be there. I need someone on my arm who looks the part. Someone who can hold a conversation about equity and market shares, not whatever it is you talk about. Knitting and baking." "I have a degree in economics, Marcus," Elena whispered, the hurt blooming in her chest like a physical bruise. "I helped you structure your first IPO. I proofread your speeches." "That was 3 years ago," Marcus scoffed, grabbing his keys to the Aston Martin Valhalla. "Now? Now you're just plain Elena. You wear cardigans. You don't wear makeup. You look like a librarian who got lost in a billionaire's apartment. I can't have the CEO of Zenith Trust looking at you and wondering if Sterling Tech is losing its edge because its CEO married a charity case." Elena gripped the edge of the counter until her knuckles turned white. "I am your wife. We promised to support each other." Marcus cut her off, walking to the door. "And the best way you can support me right now is to stay home Order takeout, and don't wait up. Chloe understands the optics. You don't." He opened the heavy oak door. He didn't look back. He didn't say, "I love you." He didn't even say goodbye. He just walked out, the heavy thud of the door echoing like a gunshot in the silent penthouse. Elena stood there for a long time, the silence ringing in her ears. She walked to the window and looked down at Central Park, a sprawling patch of grey and brown from this height. She saw the tiny speck of Marcus's silver Aston Martin peeling out of the garage, merging into the traffic, speeding toward a future he thought he had secured. He thought she was weak. He thought she was dependent on his credit cards and his mercy. He thought he had erased her. Elena turned away from the window. The tears she expected didn't come. Instead, a cold, hard resolve settled in her stomach. She walked to the large vanity mirror in the hallway, the one Marcus told her she never used enough, and looked at her reflection. She was wearing an oversized grey sweater and leggings. Her hair was in a messy bun. She looked tired, but beneath the fatigue, her eyes, usually soft and brown, were darkening into something resembling obsidian. She walked to the master bedroom, but she didn't go to the closet filled with the modest clothes Marcus allowed her to buy. She went to the back of the walk-in closet, behind the rows of winter coats, to a small, biometric safe hidden in the wall. She placed her thumb on the scanner. Beep. Identity confirmed, E. Vance. The door clicked open. Inside there was no jewelry, no cash. There was only a single, sleek black phone and a platinum keycard embossed with a golden crest, a phoenix rising from the ashes. Elena picked up the phone. It had one number saved. She dialed it. It rang once. "This line is for emergencies only, Madam Chairwoman." A deep, gravelly voice answered. It was Julian, her oldest confidant, and the acting proxy for her business interests. "Julian," Elena said, her voice shifting. The tremble was gone. The softness was replaced by a tone of command that could level boardrooms. "Is the Zenith Trust delegation ready for tonight's gala at the plaza?" "Yes, ma'am. They are expecting Mr. Sterling to receive the award. I believe they are also under the impression that you are currently in Europe on sabbatical, as per your cover story." "Change the narrative," Elena said, staring at the empty space on the bed where Marcus used to sleep. "Marcus erased me from the guest list. He's bringing a mistress. He thinks I'm an embarrassment." There was a heavy silence on the other end of the line. Then Julian's voice dropped an octave, dangerous and low. "Shall I initiate the divestment protocols? We can bankrupt Sterling Tech by noon." "No," Elena said. A small, terrifying smile touched her lips. "That's too easy. He wants image. He wants power. He wants someone who fits the brand." She reached into the safe and pulled out a small velvet box containing a ring. Not her wedding ring, but a signet ring bearing the crest of the Vance dynasty, the shadow family that owned half the real estate in Manhattan. "I'm coming to the gala, Julian, but not as Mrs. Sterling. Activate the VVIP protocol. Tell the event organizers that the founder of Zenith is attending personally to present the award." "Understood," Julian said, the excitement audible in his voice. "And, Madam? Which car shall I send?" Elena looked at the grey sweater in the mirror one last time before ripping it off. "Send the Phantom, the black one, and call the vault at Cartier. Tell them I need the Empress necklace, the one they keep in the underground archives. Consider it done." Elena hung up. She looked at the digital clock. It was 10 a.m. She had 8 hours to kill the housewife and resurrect the queen. By 2 p.m., the atmosphere in the private suite of the Mandarin Oriental, where Eleanor had relocated to avoid Marcus returning home for anything, was electric. This wasn't just a makeover, it was a tactical operation. Elena sat in a leather barber's chair, surrounded by a team of 4. These weren't the local salon stylists Marcus suggested she visit once a year. This was the Ghost Team, a squad of elite aesthetic experts who serviced European royalty and Hollywood A-listers, usually requiring a 6-month waiting list. They had dropped everything and flown in from Paris and Milan the moment Julian made the call. "The hair, madam?" asked Henri, a Frenchman with scissors that cost more than Marcus's car. "Cut it," Elena said, staring at her long, mousy brown hair that she usually wore in a ponytail because Marcus said it looked domestic. He likes long hair. So, we go short. Sharp, a bob, angled, jet black. I want to look like I could cut glass with my silhouette. Henri smiled, a wicked glint in his eye. Oui, dangerous. As the hair fell to the floor, Elena watched the last 3 years of submission fall with it. She remembered the first time she met Marcus. She had been undercover, working as a junior analyst at his firm, to gauge if sterling tech was worth acquiring for her portfolio. She had fallen for his passion, his drive. She thought he was a visionary. When he asked her out, she decided to maintain the ruse of being a poor girl from Ohio. She wanted to be loved for her, not her billions. What a fool I was, she thought, watching the dye being applied. I gave him loyalty, and he wanted a trophy. At 4 p.m., the stylist, a severe woman named Sasha, wheeled in a rack of clothing. "Julian sent over options from the private collection," Sasha said. "We have the red Valentino, the gold Versace." "No," Elena said, standing up. Her hair was now a sleek, sharp helmet of midnight black, framing her face and making her cheekbones look like weapons. Her eyes were accentuated with smoky, dramatic makeup that made her gaze piercing. "Red is for attention seekers. Gold is for the nouveau riche." She walked to the back of the rack and pulled out a garment bag that was sealed with a wax stamp. She unzipped it. The dress inside was midnight blue, so dark it looked black until the light hit it. It was a custom-designed Alexander McQueen, structured with a high collar but a plunging back, encrusted with crushed sapphires along the bodice. It was regal, intimidating, and astronomically expensive. "This one," Elena said. "It's the color of the Zenith Trust logo." "Perfect," Sasha breathed. By 6:30 p.m., the transformation was complete. Elena stood in front of the full-length mirror. The woman staring back was unrecognizable. The mousy housewife was gone. In her place stood a titan. The McQueen dress hugged her figure like a second skin, projecting power and elegance. Around her neck sat the Empress necklace, a cascading river of diamonds and rare blue spinels that hadn't been seen in public since an auction at Sotheby's 5 years ago. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Marcus. "Don't wait up. The after-party will go late. Make sure the dog is fed." Elena stared at the message. He treated her like staff. He assumed she was at home, in her pajamas, obediently waiting. She didn't reply. She handed the phone to Julian, who had just entered the suite wearing a tuxedo that fit him like armor. "The car is downstairs, madam," Julian said, bowing his head slightly. He paused, looking at her. "If I may say so, Mr. Sterling is going to have a heart attack." "Let's hope his heart is stronger than his loyalty," Elena said, sliding her feet into 6-inch Louboutin heels, the red soles flashing like a warning signal. "We have a slight complication, however," Julian noted, as they walked toward the private elevator. "Chloe de Winter has been posting on Instagram all day. She's tagged herself as the future Mrs. Sterling and is wearing the diamond bracelet the one that went missing last month." Elena stopped. The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop 10 degrees. "The bracelet my grandmother left me?" "The very same. It appears Marcus gave it to her as a pre-gala gift. Elena's hand went to her bare wrist. That bracelet was the only thing she had left of the woman who raised her. Marcus had told her he took it to get the clasp fixed. A fury, cold and white-hot, surged through her veins. It wasn't just about the gala anymore. It wasn't just about the disrespect. It was theft. It was desecration. "Good," Elena said, her voice terrifyingly calm. "She can wear it. It will make it easier to identify the thief when the police arrive." "Police?" Julian asked, raising an eyebrow as he pressed the button for the lobby. "Oh, Julian," Elena smiled, and it was the smile of a predator spotting wounded prey. "We aren't just crashing a party. We are executing a hostile takeover, and I want the world to see every second of it." The elevator doors pinged open. The lobby of the Mandarin Oriental was bustling, but as Elena stepped out, silence rippled through the room. Guests stopped mid-sentence. Concierges froze. She radiated an aura of absolute authority. Outside, the custom Rolls-Royce Phantom extended wheelbase, jet black with tinted windows, idled at the curb. The chauffeur opened the door. Elena slid into the back seat. She looked out at the city lights of New York, blurring in the rain. "To the plaza," she commanded. "And tell the driver to pull up to the red carpet right after Marcus. I want to be the shadow he can't shake." The Plaza Hotel was a fortress of light and noise. Flashbulbs popped like strobe lights, illuminating the damp pavement of Fifth Avenue. A sea of paparazzi, reporters, and fans pressed against the velvet ropes, screaming the names of tech moguls, fashion icons, and politicians. It was the Grand Aurora Gala, the night where the old money of New York shook hands with the new money of Silicon Valley. A silver Aston Martin pulled up to the carpet. The crowd roared. Marcus Sterling stepped out. He looked every bit the golden boy of the tech world. His tuxedo was flawless, his smile practiced. He waved to the cameras, soaking in the adoration. He turned and extended a hand into the car. Chloe de Winter emerged. She was wearing a dress that was loud, a bright neon pink number with feathers that looked more appropriate for a Vegas showgirl than a black tie gala. But she was young, blonde, and undeniably striking. She latched onto Marcus's arm, beaming. "Marcus! Marcus! Over here!" yelled a photographer from TMZ. "Where's the wife?" Marcus didn't miss a beat. He guided Chloe toward the reporter, flashing a charming, regretful smile. "Elena is under the weather tonight, unfortunately. A terrible migraine. But Chloe, my lead brand strategist, graciously stepped in to ensure Sterling Tech is represented." "You look stunning, Chloe," another reporter shouted. "Is that a vintage diamond bracelet?" Chloe held up her wrist, flashing Eleanor's grandmother's heirloom. "Oh, this? It was a gift from Marcus. He has such incredible taste." Marcus smiled tightly, patting her hand. "Come now. We don't want to keep the donors waiting." He felt a surge of pride. This was what he wanted. A woman who shined. A woman who the cameras loved. Elena would have been cowering behind him, clutching her purse, looking like she wanted to disappear. Chloe commanded attention. As they walked up the red carpet, Marcus leaned in. "You're doing great. Just remember, when we get inside, we need to find the Zenith Trust table. I need to schmooze the chairman. No one has seen him in years, but rumor has it he's here tonight." "Don't worry, baby," Chloe giggled. "I'll charm him." They reached the top of the stairs, posing for the main press line. The flashbulbs were blinding. Marcus felt like the king of the world. And then the atmosphere shifted. It started as a murmur at the back of the press line. Then the shouting stopped. The frantic clicking of cameras ceased, replaced by a confused, awed silence. Even the security guards straightened up. Marcus frowned. What's going on? Why did they stop taking pictures? He turned around to look back at the street. A massive vehicle had just pulled up. It wasn't a sports car. It was a Rolls-Royce Phantom, but it bore no license plate, only a diplomatic flag on the fender with a crest Marcus didn't recognize. A golden phoenix. The rear door opened. A man in a tuxedo, Julian, stepped out, but he didn't wave. He stood by the door with the posture of a royal guardsman and extended a hand. A leg emerged, then the dress, then the woman. A collective gasp went through the crowd. "Who is that?" Chloe whispered, her grip on Marcus's arm tightening. Is that a movie star?" Marcus squinted. The woman was walking up the red carpet now. She moved with a slow, predatory grace. The photographers, realizing they were missing the shot of the century, suddenly erupted into a frenzy, 10 times louder than they had for Marcus. Flash, flash, flash. She was stunning. The midnight blue dress seemed to absorb the light. The haircut was sharp, modern, aggressive. The necklace she wore looked like it cost more than Marcus's entire company. She walked alone. She didn't smile. She looked straight ahead, her eyes locked on the entrance of the plaza. Marcus felt a strange, cold prickle on the back of his neck. There was something familiar about her walk, the way she held her head, but he couldn't place it. She looked like royalty. As she ascended the stairs, she passed right by Marcus and Chloe. She didn't stop. She didn't look at them. But as she passed, the scent of her perfume hit him. It was Jasmine Rouge by Tom Ford. It was the perfume he had bought for Elena on their first anniversary. The one he told her was too expensive to wear every day. Marcus froze. He spun around, staring at the back of the woman's head. "Elena," he whispered, the name catching in his throat. But it was impossible. Elena was at home, crying over instant coffee. This woman was a goddess. The woman reached the top of the stairs. The head of the event, Mr. Harrington, a man who usually ignored Marcus, rushed forward, bowing low, a gesture of extreme subservience. "Madam Chairwoman," Harrington said, his voice trembling but amplified by the nearby microphones. "We didn't know you would be gracing us with your presence personally. This is an honor beyond words." The woman finally spoke. Her voice was low, husky, and projected with perfect clarity. "The honor is mine, Mr. Harrington. I felt it was time the Zenith Trust audited its investments, in person." She turned slightly, just enough for her profile to catch the light. She looked back, her dark eyes locking directly onto Marcus's stunned face. She didn't smile. She just raised one perfectly arched eyebrow. Then she turned and disappeared into the ballroom, leaving a vacuum of silence in her wake. Chloe tugged on Marcus's sleeve. "Marcus? Marcus, you're hurting my arm." "Who was that?" Marcus was pale, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He stared at the empty doorway. I don't know," Marcus lied, but his stomach was churning with a sick, sinking dread. "Let's go inside." But as he walked through the doors, the feeling didn't leave him. He felt like a man who had just walked into a lion's den, armed with nothing but a toothpick. The grand ballroom of the plaza was a kaleidoscope of crystal chandeliers, towering floral arrangements of white hydrangeas, and the collective net worth of a small country. Waiters in white gloves moved like ghosts through the crowd, offering flutes of vintage Dom Perignon. Marcus Sterling straightened his tie, his confidence slowly returning as the familiar environment of wealth soothed his nerves. He had convinced himself that the woman on the red carpet was just a look-alike, a coincidence. After all, Eleanor was at home, probably asleep by now. "Come on, Chloe," Marcus said, placing a guiding hand on her lower back. We need to head to table 1. That's the master table. The chairman of Zenith Trust will likely be seated there. It's crucial I make a good impression before the awards ceremony. Chloe beamed, holding her champagne glass high. I can't wait to tell him about my ideas for the rebrand. Sterling Tech needs a younger face. They navigated through the crowd, Marcus nodding to competitors and partners. He walked with the stride of a man who owned the room. He approached the raised platform near the stage where table 1 was situated, the prime spot overlooking the entire hall. He stepped up to the table, scanning the gold-embossed place cards. Senator Davis, Lady Covington, Mr. J. Vance. He circled the table. Madam Chairwoman. He paused. The card for the mysterious woman was right next to the empty seat reserved for the chairman, but he couldn't find his name. That's weird, Chloe said, frowning. Marcus, your name isn't here. Marcus felt a flush of irritation. It must be an error. The event planners are incompetent. He flagged down a passing maitre d'. Excuse me, I'm Marcus Sterling. I'm receiving the Innovator of the Year award tonight. There seems to be a mistake. My placard isn't at table 1. The maitre d', a tall man with a face of stone, checked his clipboard. He didn't look flustered. He looked bored. Mr. Sterling, let me check. He ran his finger down a list. Ah, yes. There was a last-minute adjustment to the seating chart per the instruction of the Zenith board. Adjustment? Marcus snapped. Fine. Put me at table 2 then, with the Goldman Sachs reps. I'm afraid table 2 is full, sir, the maitre d' said smoothly. You and Ms. De Winter have been seated at table 46. Marcus froze. 46? It's in the rear, sir, near the service entrance. Chloe dropped her hand from his arm. The back? Marcus, I can't sit in the back. People will think we're nobody. This is ridiculous, Marcus hissed. I am the guest of honor. You are an award recipient, sir, the maitre d' corrected him, his tone dipping into condescension. The guests of honor are the board members. Please take your seats. The first course is being served. Marcus looked around. People were watching. He saw the CEO of a rival tech firm smirking at him from table 3. Swallowing his pride, Marcus grabbed Chloe's arm. Let's just go, he muttered. I'll fix this later. Once I get on stage and give my speech, none of this will matter. The walk to table 46 was a walk of shame. They passed the heavy hitters of Wall Street, the celebrities, the politicians. Finally, they arrived at a small, round table tucked into a corner near the swinging kitchen doors. The draft from the service hallway was cold. The other people at the table were the +1s of junior associates and a few interns who had won lottery tickets to the event. Marcus sat down, fuming. He stared across the vast ballroom toward table 1. And then she entered. The woman from the red carpet, the chairwoman. The entire room seemed to dim as the spotlight followed her. She walked through the center of the room, flanked by Julian and 2 large security guards. As she passed the tables of billionaires, men stood up. Actual billionaires stood up to bow to her. She reached table 1. The senator pulled out her chair. She sat down with a grace that made every other woman in the room look clumsy. Who is she? Marcus whispered to himself, squinting. From this distance, he couldn't see her face clearly, only the shimmer of the blue dress and the flash of the incredible necklace. She's the one who took our table, Chloe spat, sipping her wine aggressively. She thinks she's so special. A young intern sitting next to Marcus leaned in, his eyes wide. You don't know who that is? Marcus looked at the kid with disdain. No. Do you? That's the shadow of Wall Street, the intern whispered reverently. Nobody knows her real name, but the rumors say she controls the Vance family fortune. They own everything. Real estate, shipping, tech. They bought Zenith Trust 3 years ago. Marcus's blood ran cold. Zenith Trust owns 40% of my company, he thought. If that's the head of Zenith, and she's treating me like this... He watched as a waiter approached table 1. The chairwoman leaned back, laughing at something the senator said. The gesture, the way she tilted her head back, exposing her throat, sent a shock wave of familiarity through Marcus. It was exactly how Elena laughed when he used to tickle her. No, he told himself, gripping the tablecloth. Elena is plain. Elena is simple. This woman is a predator. But he couldn't look away. He watched as she raised a hand to signal the waiter. The waiter hurried over. She pointed across the room, directly at table 46. A moment later, a server arrived at Marcus's table with a bottle of wine. Compliments of the chairwoman, the server said, placing the bottle down. Marcus looked at the label. It wasn't the Dom Perignon everyone else was drinking. It was a bottle of generic, supermarket sparkling wine, the kind that cost $5, the same kind Elena had bought for their anniversary last year, because they were saving money for the company expansion. Marcus had yelled at her for buying trash. He looked up at table 1. The chairwoman was looking right at him. She raised her glass of vintage champagne in a mock toast. Marcus felt like he was being strangled. The message was clear. I know who you are, and I know what you did. By the time the main course, a filet mignon with truffle reduction, was cleared, Marcus had consumed 3 glasses of whiskey. He was angry, confused, and desperate to regain control. I'm going to the bar, Chloe announced, standing up. She was bored. The people at their table were ignoring her, and the humidity from the kitchen was making her hair frizzy. I need a real drink, not this swill. Go, Marcus grunted, his eyes still fixed on table 1. Chloe strutted toward the main bar, which was located near the VIP section. She wanted to be seen. She checked her reflection in a window, fluffing her feathers. She saw the chairwoman standing near the bar, speaking with a group of investors. Chloe saw an opportunity. She was bold, and she was drunk. She decided she was going to introduce herself. After all, if Marcus wouldn't schmooze the VIPs, she would. She walked up to the group, pushing her way in. Hi there, Chloe chirped, flashing her brightest smile. I'm Chloe de Winter, lead strategist for Sterling Tech. The conversation stopped. The investors looked at her with mild annoyance. The chairwoman turned slowly. Up close, the woman was terrifying. Her makeup was flawless, her eyes dark and unreadable. She towered over Chloe in her heels. Ms. de Winter, the chairwoman said. Her voice was smooth, like velvet wrapped around a dagger. I've heard so much about you. Chloe preened. Oh, really? Good things, I hope. Marcus, Mr. Sterling, says I'm the secret weapon of the company. Secret weapon, the chairwoman repeated, a dry amusement in her tone. Her eyes drifted down to Chloe's wrist. Tell me, Ms. de Winter, that is a lovely bracelet. Is it an antique? Chloe held up her wrist, showing off the diamond chain. Oh, thank you. Yes, it's very rare. My boyfriend gave it to me. He has incredible taste in jewelry. The chairwoman took a step closer. The air seemed to get thinner. He certainly does, she said softly, though I believe he has a problem with sourcing. Excuse me, Chloe blinked. That bracelet, the chairwoman said, her voice hardening, losing all warmth. It features a unique clasp design, a double-locking mechanism shaped like a rose. It was commissioned in 1952 by a man named Arthur Vance for his wife. Chloe's smile faltered. How would you know that? Because, the chairwoman said, reaching out and gripping Chloe's wrist. Her grip was iron. Arthur Vance was my grandfather, and that bracelet was stolen from my bedroom safe 2 days ago. The circle of investors gasped, The music in the room seemed to fade away as people turned to watch. "Let go of me!" Chloe shrieked, trying to pull away. "You're crazy! Marcus gave this to me." "Then Marcus is a thief," the chairwoman said coldly. "Julian?" Julian materialized from the crowd. "Madam? Call security and call the NYPD. We have found the missing heirloom." Panic flared in Chloe's eyes. "Marcus! Marcus!" she screamed. Marcus, who had been watching from his table, saw the commotion. He saw the chairwoman gripping Chloe's arm. He saw the security guards moving in. Adrenaline flooded his system. He jumped up and sprinted across the ballroom, shoving waiters aside. "Hey, get your hands off her!" Marcus roared, bursting into the circle. He placed himself between Chloe and the chairwoman. He looked at the mysterious woman, his chest heaving. "Who do you think you are? You can't just accuse people of theft. Do you know who I am?" The chairwoman looked at him. She didn't flinch. She stared right into his eyes. And for the first time, Marcus saw it. Beneath the smoky makeup, beneath the sharp haircut, beneath the cold fury, he saw the brown eyes he had woken up to for 3 years. The world stopped spinning. The noise of the gala faded into a buzz. Marcus stared. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Elena," he whispered. It was a sound of pure disbelief. The chairwoman didn't deny it. She didn't confirm it. She just leaned in close, so only he could hear. "You wanted someone who fit the brand, Marcus," she whispered. Her breath smelled of mint, not the coffee she used to drink. "You wanted someone powerful. Someone who wouldn't embarrass you." She released Chloe's wrist with a shove. "Well," Elena said, stepping back and spreading her arms, the diamonds on her neck catching the light like fire. "Here I am." Marcus staggered back as if he'd been punched. But you're... The knitting, the coupons, you washed my socks." "I washed your socks because I loved you," Elena said, her voice rising now, carrying across the silent room. "I hid my name because I wanted to be sure you loved me, not the Vance fortune." She looked at Chloe, who was trembling and clutching the bracelet. Then she looked back at Marcus. "I got my answer this morning," Elena said. "You didn't want a wife, Marcus. You wanted an accessory, and you made the mistake of trying to trade a diamond for a rhinestone." She snapped her fingers. 2 large security guards stepped forward. "Retrieve my property," she commanded, pointing at the bracelet. "No!" Chloe cried as the guards approached. "Marcus, do something!" Marcus was paralyzed. He looked at his wife, this stranger, this queen, and then at the woman he had brought to replace her. The reality of what he had done, of who he had betrayed, was crashing down on him like a collapsing building. "Elena, wait!" Marcus stammered, reaching out. "We can talk about this. Please, not here." "There is nothing to talk about," Elena said, turning her back on him. "Enjoy the awards ceremony, Mr. Sterling. I have a feeling the keynote speech is going to be illuminating." She walked away, the crowd parting for her like the Red Sea. Marcus was left standing in the center of the ballroom, the whispers of New York's elite swarming around him like wasps. The rest of the hour was a blur for Marcus. Chloe had fled to the restroom in tears after surrendering the bracelet to security. Marcus sat alone at table 46, nursing a glass of whiskey, his hand shaking. He should leave. He knew he should leave. But he couldn't. He was receiving the Tech Innovator of the Year award. It was the culmination of his career. If he left now, he would look like a coward. He told himself that business was business. Even if Eleanor was rich, even if she was this chairwoman, she couldn't deny that he built Sterling Tech. He wrote the code. He made the deals. She can't take that away from me, he thought. I am the CEO. The board loves me. The lights dimmed. The dramatic music swelled. The host, a famous news anchor, took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we honor visionaries. But before we present the award for Innovator of the Year, we have a surprise. The majority shareholder of the Zenith Trust, the parent company that funds 70% of the innovation in this room, has decided to give the keynote address herself. Please welcome Ms. Elena Vance. The name rang out through the speakers. Elena Vance. Marcus flinched. He hadn't known her last name was Vance. She had told him it was Smith. The spotlight hit the stage. Elena walked out. She had removed the sapphire necklace. In her hand, she held a simple clicker for the presentation screen behind her. She stood behind the podium, looking out at the 1,000 faces in the dark. "Good evening," she said. Her voice was steady, magnified by the speakers. "We talk a lot about value in this room. We talk about stock prices, market caps, ROI. She paused. 3 years ago, I made an investment. I invested in a man. I thought he had potential. I thought he had integrity. Behind her, the massive screen flickered to life. It didn't show a stock chart. It showed a timeline. Project Sterling, initial funding. Many of you know Sterling Tech, Elena continued. You know it as the fastest-growing AI firm in the sector. You credit its success to the genius of its CEO, Marcus Sterling. Marcus sat up straighter. See, he thought, she has to admit it. But, Elena said, genius requires capital, and when Mr. Sterling was rejected by every bank in the city 5 years ago, it was the Zenith Trust that stepped in. Specifically, it was a blind trust fund managed by me. A murmur went through the crowd. I believed in him, Elena said. I believed in him so much that I married him. I played the role of the supportive wife. I stayed in the shadows because I wanted him to shine. I wanted him to feel like a king. She looked directly at the camera that was broadcasting the event to the live stream. But kings often forget who builds their throne. The screen behind her changed. It showed a document, a morality clause within the CEO contract of Sterling Tech. Tonight, Elena said, her voice dropping to a hush that silenced the room, the CEO of Sterling Tech decided that his wife was not brand appropriate for this gala. He erased her name from the list. He brought a mistress. Gasps erupted. People turned to look for Marcus in the dark. He told me I was plain, Elena said. He told me I was an embarrassment. He told me I didn't understand optics. She smiled, and it was terrifying. So, let's talk about optics. The morality clause in the Zenith funding agreement states that any executive who brings public scandal or disrepute to the brand is subject to immediate termination without severance. Marcus stood up, knocking his chair over. No, he shouted. You can't do this. I am the chairwoman of the board, Marcus, Elena said, answering his shout from the stage. I can do whatever I want. She pressed the clicker one last time. The screen showed a new graphic. Press release. Effective immediately. Marcus Sterling removed as CEO of Sterling Tech. Interim CEO appointed, Julian Thorne. You wanted to erase me, Marcus, Elena said into the microphone. So I'm returning the favor. As of this moment, you are fired. Your company shares are frozen, pending an investigation into the misuse of company funds for personal gifts. She placed the clicker on the podium. And Marcus? She added, her voice soft but echoing like thunder. Get out of my penthouse. You're not on the guest list anymore. She walked off the stage. The room exploded into chaos. Photographers sprinted toward table 46. Marcus stood there, blinded by the flashes, surrounded by the ruins of his life. He looked for Chloe, but she was gone. He looked at the stage, but Elena was gone. He was alone. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't just poor. he was nothing. The humiliation at the plaza was absolute. But the real nightmare began when the doors of the hotel closed behind Marcus. He was standing on the sidewalk of Fifth Avenue. It was raining, a freezing November sleet that soaked through his tuxedo in seconds. The paparazzi had gotten their shots and left. The limousines were gone. Even Chloe de Winter had vanished into an Uber, ignoring his screaming calls until he saw the notification. Blocked. Marcus shivered, wiping rain from his eyes. He walked toward the valet stand where he had left the Aston Martin. He needed to get home. He needed to regroup. He would call his lawyers in the morning. Elena couldn't just fire him. He was the founder. There were bylaws. There were rights. He reached the valet, handing over his ticket with a trembling hand. "My car!" Marcus snapped, trying to retain a shred of authority. "The silver Aston Martin." The valet, a young man who looked terrified, didn't move to the key rack. He looked down at a clipboard. "Mr. Sterling?" "Yes, damn it. Get the car." "I'm sorry, sir," the valet said, his voice barely audible over the rain. "A repo team just left with it." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "Repo? That car is leased by the company." "Exactly, sir. We received a call from the leasing agency. They said the corporate account for Sterling Tech has flagged all assets for immediate retrieval due to unauthorized usage." Marcus stared at him. Elena worked fast. She wasn't just firing him, she was stripping him. "Fine," Marcus spat. "I'll take a taxi." He hailed a yellow cab, throwing himself into the back seat. Steinway Tower, 111 West 57th Street. The ride was a blur of neon lights and panic. He pulled out his phone. He had 3 banking apps. He opened the first one, Chase Private Client. Account status, frozen. Contact branch. He opened the second, Amex Centurion. Card suspended. He checked his personal savings. It was a joint account. Balance 0.10 is yours. Transfer note, repayment for unauthorized jewelry purchase. Marcus let out a strangled cry, slamming his fist against the leather seat. She had taken the money for the bracelet back. All of it. The taxi pulled up to the Steinway Tower, the needle-thin skyscraper that screamed wealth. Marcus didn't have cash. He had to give the driver his Rolex watch, a Daytona worth $30,000, just to cover a $40 fare. The driver looked at him like he was insane, but took it and sped off. Marcus walked into the lobby. It was warm. It smelled of expensive lilies. Frank, the head doorman who had worked there for 10 years, stood behind the desk. Frank was a man Marcus had tipped generously every Christmas. They had discussed baseball. They were, Marcus thought, friends. "Evening, Frank," Marcus said, walking toward the elevators. "Rough night." Frank stepped out from behind the desk. He blocked the path to the elevators. He didn't smile. "I'm afraid I can't let you up, Mr. Sterling." Marcus stopped. "Excuse me." "Ms. Vance has updated the building security protocols," Frank said, his face impassive. "Your biometric data has been wiped from the system. You are no longer a resident." "I live here," Marcus shouted, his voice cracking. "My clothes are up there. My life is up there." "Your personal effects have been packed," Frank said. He pointed to a small cardboard box sitting in the corner of the lobby. It looked pathetic against the marble walls. "Ms. Vance requested that these be given to you." Marcus walked over to the box. He ripped it open. Inside there were no Italian suits, no watches, no electronics. It contained what a one pair of jeans, 2, one grey sweater, 3, a toothbrush, 4, the cheap jar of instant coffee he had mocked that morning. There was a note taped to the jar, "To help you stay awake while you look for a job." Marcus stared at the jar. The cruelty of it was precise. She hadn't just kicked him out. She had reduced him to what he was before he met her. "Frank, please," Marcus pleaded, turning back to the doorman. "It's freezing outside. I have nowhere to go. Just let me into the lobby to make a call." Frank looked at him. For a second, Marcus saw pity. Then, Frank remembered how Marcus had treated Eleanor, the quiet woman who always asked about Frank's kids, who brought the staff coffee on cold mornings. "Miss Vance was very clear, sir," Frank said, stepping back to the door and holding it open. "Trespassers will be arrested. Good night, Mr. Sterling." Marcus was pushed out into the cold. The heavy glass doors clicked shut. He saw his reflection in the glass, wet, disheveled, holding a cardboard box. He walked to a park bench a few blocks away, huddled under the small overhang of a bus stop. He sat there, shivering, clutching the jar of instant coffee. The city of New York, the city he thought he owned just 6 hours ago, roared around him. But now he wasn't a player. He was just another ghost in the rain. 3 weeks later, the headquarters of Sterling Tech, now rebranded as Zenith Innovations, gleamed under the winter sun. The glass tower in the financial district was a hive of activity. Stocks were up. The media was calling it the Vance Renaissance. Marcus sat in the reception area on the 40th floor. He looked different. The arrogance was gone, scraped away by 21 days of sleeping on a friend's couch and dodging calls from debt collectors. He was wearing an off-the-rack suit that didn't fit quite right. He had lost weight. "Miss Vance will see you now," the receptionist said. She didn't look up from her screen. She didn't offer him water. Marcus stood up, smoothing his tie. His hands were sweating. He walked down the long corridor that used to lead to his office. He remembered walking this hall like a god, barking orders at interns. Now the staff didn't even make eye contact. He reached the double glass doors. He knocked. "Enter." He walked in. The office had been transformed. His sleek, cold, minimalist black furniture was gone. In its place were warm woods, cream-colored sofas, and art. It looked like a place where humans worked, not robots. Elena sat behind the desk. She looked radiant. She was wearing a simple white blouse and black trousers, but the air of authority around her was suffocating. She was reviewing a file. She didn't look up immediately. "Sit," she said. Marcus sat in one of the guest chairs. He felt small. "Elena," he started, his voice raspy. "Thank you for seeing me." Elena finally looked up. Her eyes were clear, devoid of the anger he had seen at the gala. Now, there was only indifference, which was worse. "I'm seeing you because the legal team said we need your signature on the final divorce decree to avoid a trial," she said, sliding a document across the desk. "And because you've been calling my assistant 5 times a day." Marcus looked at the papers. He didn't pick up the pen. "I made a mistake," he whispered. "You made several," Elena corrected him. "I know," Marcus said, leaning forward. "I got lost, Elena. The money, the fame, it got to my head. But I'm still the man you married. I'm still the guy who stayed up all night, coding the first version of the software. We were a team." "We were never a team, Marcus," Elena said calmly. "I was your ladder. You climbed me, and then you kicked me away when you reached the top." "I can change," Marcus pleaded. Tears pricked his eyes. "I miss you. Not the money. I miss us. I miss the mornings. I miss the quiet." Elena stood up. She walked to the window, looking out over the city. "Do you remember our second date, Marcus?" Marcus blinked, surprised by the question. We went to that diner in Queens, the one with the bad coffee." "Yes," Elena said. "And do you remember what you told me?" Marcus racked his brain. "I told you I was going to be a millionaire." "No," Elena turned to face him. You told me that you wanted to be rich so you could protect the people you loved. You said money was a shield. She walked back to the desk and leaned against it. I fell in love with that man, the protector. But somewhere along the way, you stopped using the shield to protect me and started using it to hit me. You didn't erase me from the Gala because of brand optics, Marcus. You erased me because my simplicity reminded you of where you came from. And you hate where you came from. Marcus looked down at his hands. She was right. He couldn't deny it. I can earn it back, he said softly. Give me a job, any job. Let me prove I can be that man again. Eleanor looked at him for a long moment. For a split second, Marcus thought he saw a flicker of the old Eleanor, the soft wife. She opened her drawer and pulled out a single envelope. I do have something for you, she said. Marcus's heart leapt. A job offer? A settlement check? He took the envelope. It was light. He opened it. Inside was a photograph. It was a picture of them from 3 years ago, sitting on the floor of their first apartment, eating pizza. They looked happy. Keep that, Elena said. That is the only asset you have left from this marriage, the memory that you were once a good man. Elena. Sign the papers, Marcus, she said, her voice final. Julian is waiting outside to escort you out. And this time, don't make a scene. It's bad for the brand. Marcus stared at her. He realized then that the door was not just closed, it was bricked over. The woman in front of him wasn't his wife anymore. She was a titan he had created by breaking her heart. He picked up the pen. His hand shook as he signed the line next to petitioner, Elena Vance. He stood up, leaving the papers on the desk. He held the photograph in his hand. Goodbye, Elena. Goodbye, Marcus, she said. She didn't watch him leave. She was already picking up her phone to call the London office. Marcus walked out of the office, past the logo he had designed, past the people he had hired. He walked out of the building and into the busy street. He looked at the photo one last time. It was a picture of a man who had everything, taken by a woman who gave him everything. He put the photo in his pocket, buttoned his cheap coat against the wind, and disappeared into the crowd, just another face in the city he used to think he owned. And that is the tragic fall of Marcus Sterling. He spent years building an empire, only to lose it in a single night because he forgot the most important rule of success. Never bite the hand that feeds you, especially when that hand is wearing a wedding ring. Marcus thought power came from image, but he learned too late that real power comes from loyalty. He chased the validation of strangers and lost the devotion of a queen. What would you have done if you were Elena? Would you have given him a second chance, or did Marcus get exactly what he deserved? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of karma and justice, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new story. We have a shocking drama coming up next week about an ungrateful son who evicts his mother, only to find out who really owns the land. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching.